Let's get right to CNN's Ryan Nobles. Ryan, let's start with what's on the table and why these progressives are frustrated.
Well, the reason they're frustrated, Jake, is because they're concerned that the Democrats that are a part of these conversations are basically just giving up too much to Republicans, including taking out key provisions of the broader infrastructure plan related to things like climate change, and also not giving enough when it comes to tax increases, including corporate tax increases and the estate tax, things along those lines. Now, none of these negotiations are solid by any stretch of the imagination. It's just the beginning of a conversation. But the problem for both Republicans and Democrats is that you have to find enough votes to pass something. And that's why this group is meeting. And I caught up with Jeanne Shaheen. She is a Democrat from New Hampshire. She said that everybody on the outside needs to calm down and let this process play out because they are making progress. Take a listen.
We have come to some agreement on various revenue streams that we think we could support. So I think there's the ability to get some agreement on revenue as well as expenditures, but we've got to negotiate that.
And the other thing Shaheen told me is that it's time for the White House to weigh in on this as well. And if the White House were to agree to this, that a lot of Democrats would come along and join the party as well. Jake, again, this comes to just what you can get enough votes to pass. Right now, there's no tangible proposal on the table. And until that happens, it's difficult to forecast what could come next.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Let's discuss. Let me start with you, former Congresswoman Mia Love. There are 5 Senate Republicans in this new group of 10 that's negotiating, but those 5, that's only half the number the Democrats need to overcome a filibuster. The Republican whip, Senator John Thune, has already said that this group can't go far beyond where Senator Capito was and still get Republican votes. Are you optimistic about these talks?
I actually think it's the smart thing to do. I don't think it's the foolish thing to do. And I agree with Senator Shaheen, where she states that everybody really should calm down and let the process take its course. This is how you get bipartisan bills through. Mitt Romney has wanted to work with the COVID bill. He begged and said, look, I want to be able to do some of these things and I want to be able to get there and vote so we don't have to do it through budget reconciliation. And I'm glad that he's actually at the table. And if they push Republicans out on this bill, I think they're going to lose all good faith when it comes to Republicans on other bills that they want to work on. If they don't do it this time, they're going to have to plan on budget reconciliations for a lot of the other bills that they're going to try and push through.
Right. You can only do it for budgetary bills, though, of course. For expenditure bills, that's the process by which you only need 50 votes, or 51, rather, with the vice president breaking the tie. Former Congressman Joe Kennedy, your home Commonwealth Senator, Elizabeth Warren, she's already saying that it's time to move forward without Republicans. Do you agree?
Yeah, Jake, look, I think people are frustrated, and I think Mia's right here that part of this is the process playing out. But the bottom line is Democrats need the votes, and there's 2 members of that group that are Senators Manchin and Sinema, amongst others, that want to give this another shot. But look, there's an awful lot that a Biden administration wants to do that Democrats in both the House and the Senate want to do, and that I think, quite candidly, our country needs, from infrastructure investments and democracy reforms and efforts to actually make our country stronger, fairer, our economy more resilient. The longer this takes, that window starts to close. So I think the administration, you got to do what you got to do in order to get the votes. I hope Republicans are willing to actually come to the table and get, just as you pointed out, 10 instead of 5. I remain skeptical. Yeah. I think plenty of others do, too.
So, Congresswoman, Senators Mitt Romney and Rob Portman from Utah and Ohio, they're part of this group. They're negotiating. But they also say they're not going to agree to any tax increases to pay for the infrastructure deal. Presumably, that means not even to Biden's proposal of a 15% minimum corporate tax, just asking companies to make sure they spend at least 15% on corporate taxes. I mean, how can you feel optimistic when 2 of the Republicans... Go ahead.
Well, I just think that those are going to be the sticking points, right? How big the bill is, how to pay for that bill, and what the definition of infrastructure is. And so when you go back to the painful, how long it took, I was part of that process, and so was Congressman Kennedy. That was a hard, long process, and to go back and to strip some of that is going to be very difficult for Republicans. But I do remain optimistic because this has been done in the past, and I think that this is how bills should be run. You debate them and make sure that you do not allow perfect to be the enemy of a good win. You're going to have to give some up on both sides, but America needs a good infrastructure plan, and that means that you're going to have to make some concessions and then at least get something that you want on the table.
I do wonder, Congressman, how much you think this group of 10, these new negotiations are about what about the White House and Senator Schumer, the leader of the Democrats, the majority leader, letting Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin do everything they can to get a bipartisan deal and exhaust that so that then they can say, look, Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, we tried. You got to join us now and pass this with just 50 votes plus the vice president.
Look, Dick, I think that's certainly part of it. And I hope they're successful. I hope they can get 10 Republicans on board. I hope they're able to find 10 Republicans that will come on board and embrace what a Democratic majority actually has and the efforts there so that this bill is robust enough to address the challenges our country is confronting. Again, I think there's comments from a number of Republican senators, Ron Johnson amongst them, that cast serious doubt on that. That being said, no one expected that this was going to be easy, right? The legislative process is hard, and you've got Democratic control of government by a margin of exactly 0. So you need every vote. And if you've got senators there that are saying, hey, we need to go down this process, you need to go down that process. But we are seeing the pushback there from the progressives, again, which I think everybody expected was going to happen. We're just in it now, and it's a hard spot. It's a spot that I'd rather be in than the alternative.
All right, two of the best, former Representatives Mia Love of Utah and Joe Kennedy of Massachusetts. Thanks to both of you. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Coming up, another infrastructure issue. Congressional negotiators are dealing with high-speed internet, and for many, it's not an issue. But about a third of this nation, a third of the American people, have lived through this pandemic without access to the internet. Now, President Biden's proposed infrastructure bill is aiming to provide every home with reliable high-speed broadband by 2030. CNN's Miguel Marquez takes a look at what that might mean for those who currently go without.
Jaden, Jackson, and Kaylin, when the pandemic hit, broadband for these students, essential.
We needed it for everything. I needed it for all of their schools. I needed it for Zoom meetings.
She was paying $100 a month for poor service. 44% of homes here in Cleveland have no high-speed internet, says a 2018 report from the National Digital Inclusion Alliance. And the White House says some 30 million Americans live in areas where broadband infrastructure isn't good enough.
These neighborhoods don't have the right infrastructure.
Alvarez and Digital C, a Cleveland nonprofit focused on providing fast and cheap internet for residents like Melanie Williams.
This device right here can do 10 gigabits per second of throughput.
Digital C is delivering ultra high-speed internet at a very low cost to those needing it most.
Since the pandemic, I had to become a homeschool teacher all day. So, that stopped me from working.
Today, with Digital C service and help from the school, Williams pays $0 for high-speed internet that works for everyone.
One of our hottest sellers.
Monica Malik is running her own business from home.
It helps me with my orders and helps me to reach out to customers and for them to get in contact with me faster.
Today, she pays about $19 a month for Digital C's high-speed internet, keeping her business up and running.
And you two are fine. Okay, just do what you do.
Cleveland's Ashbury Senior Community Computer Center trains and educates students to seniors, everything from job searches to doctor visits.
When the pandemic was in full force, our seniors couldn't get out and go to the doctor. So if they didn't have internet connectivity, then they could not take advantage of the technology with telehealth.
Thank you for calling Greenlight. This is Matt. How can I help you?
What about where high-speed internet is plentiful? Rural Wilson, North Carolina, near the tech hub of Raleigh-Durham, built its own municipal internet system called Greenlight in 2008.
Well, used to, number one was, did you have sewer? Number two was, did you have county water? And it right on down the line. Now I think that the broadband internet has jumped in front.
Stone and his partner, Robbie Brown, developing home sites as fast as they can. They sell before they're finished. And the builder will only build them if.
And the first question he asked was their high-speed internet, as in Greenlight.
And it's not just home building.
We are standing in the middle of the old Herring Drug Store, built in 1885.
Tech consultant Bill O'Boyle is bringing lots of higher-paying jobs to Wilson. Jobs that wouldn't be possible without high-speed, affordable internet.
51 employees today?
Correct.
How many in a month, in 3 months, in a year?
We intend to be about 75 by the end of this year, and we want to do about 125 in the next 18 to 24 months.
O'Boyle's consulting business booming so much, he's refurbishing a second downtown Wilson building that sat vacant for years.
What was this?
This used to be an auto parts warehouse for many decades, and it will be just as modern and advanced as any other tech space you'd see in larger markets.
A huge investment for this small city a decade ago, paying off massively today.
If you are a small community and you don't have these capacities, then the job market could be moving away from you.
Fast, cheap, reliable broadband, the bedrock of the new global digital economy. And now, look, the pandemic put a very fine point on why all Americans need access to broadband internet, proper broadband internet. And the administration says if they have $100 billion that they could close those gaps in the rural areas and urban areas by 2030. Jake?
All right, Miguel Marquez, thank you so much. Millions of doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine possibly about to expire. Could they go to waste with so many around the world desperate for a shot? Our health lead, Johnson & Johnson has a shelf life problem with its COVID vaccine. The vaccines are only good for 3 months, and millions of doses are sitting unused in the United States. On top of that, some states say federal rules will not let them donate those shots to other places in need. A plan to possibly redistribute this oversupply is under review as Dr. Fauci warns of yet a new variant spreading quickly, as CNN's Amara Walker reports.
We don't want to let happen in the United States what is happening currently in the UK, where you have a troublesome variant essentially taking over as the dominant variant.
Growing concern that the more transmissible Delta variant first identified in India could fuel new surges among unvaccinated people in the United States.
If you have states where vaccination rates are lower, they are still vulnerable, especially with this new Delta variant, which is even more infectious.
The Delta variant already accounts for 60% of new cases in the UK and may be more severe, according to British public health officials. Dr. Anthony Fauci pleading with the public to get both vaccine doses now.
We cannot declare victory prematurely because there are still a substantial proportion of people who have not been vaccinated.
The White House is calling June a pivotal month of action. Lower vaccine demand could mean hundreds of thousands of shots going to waste. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine warning 200,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will expire by the end of the month. Officials in Arkansas saying they have so many unused doses, they've stopped ordering the J&J vaccine. In a statement to CNN, Johnson & Johnson says it's working to extend the shelf life of the vaccine, which currently lasts up to 3 months in a refrigerator. As more Americans are traveling, the CDC has updated travel guidance to 120 countries for the vaccinated and unvaccinated. 33 additional countries now at level 1, the lowest risk category, including Iceland, Israel, Singapore, and South Korea. Meanwhile, a battle pitting the Texas and Florida Republican governors against major cruise lines who use ports in their states. The governors banning proof of vaccines, but the cruise ships are requiring vaccines for passengers.
Texas is open 100%. And we want to make sure that you have the freedom to go where you want without limits.
Now, Jake, health officials are warning states with lower vaccination rates are vulnerable to surges, especially with this new Delta variant. Georgia, where we are, is actually among the states with the lowest vaccination rates, along with Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma.